Very good, but now we're going to move on to the first of today's subjects, the Cat B35 mobile phone. Now, it's quite a useful phone if you want some of the functionality of a smartphone, along with having the physical tactile keypad as well. And probably the best place to start with this is maybe just a video introduction of the phone. This was prepared by NCBI Labs trainer Derek Carolan, and just afterwards we'll have a chance to chat with Derek and the rest of our panel as well. We'll have a little bit more of an opportunity to discuss the availability of the phone and the kind of pricing of the phone as well.
The following is an introduction to the Cat B35 mobile phone. The Cat B35 mobile phone has some features that may be of interest to somebody who's blind or visually impaired. These features include the Cat B35 is a traditional type phone, as in that it has buttons that you can press. It's not a touchscreen phone. It also has a readout function built into it. So as you move through different menus on the screen, your recently call list or a text message, it will read out what's happening on the screen. Also, it has built-in features like a smartphone, such as Google Assist, that allows you to press a button and ask Google to call somebody in your contacts or just to ask a general Google question. To get started, I'll just describe the phone. The phone itself is about the same size as a standard phone, so it's just about 5.5 inches long and about 2.5 inches wide. The front panel of the phone is divided into 3 sections. So the top section is your screen, so it's about a 2.4-inch screen. The bottom third of it is where your numbers are that you can physically press. And then in the middle section, just above the numbers and between the screen is your kind of control area, where you have your button to answer a call, your button to switch on and off the phone. You have what they call left soft key buttons and right soft key buttons. And basically they're buttons whose functionality changes depending on what you're doing. So if you're in a text message, they might have one functionality. If you're on a call, they may have another functionality. So if you have the readout function enabled on the phone, the phone will read out and tell you what these functions are, depending on where you are. Okay, so we'll go into a bit more detail on all those little buttons in a few minutes. Just to describe what else is on the phone, on the top of the phone, there is a little light or a torch, may be useful. On the left-hand side of the phone, there's a little panel, and in there's the option for a dual SIM, or you can put in an SD card in there if you want to increase your memory on the phone. At the bottom of the phone, there is your headphone jack and also your micro USB option for charging the phone. So that's all stored down there at the bottom. And then on the back, you have a 2-megapixel camera. Okay, so there's only one camera on the back of this phone. Okay, the phone itself is encased in a very rugged protective shell, so it's a quite durable phone and quite strong phone, so if you drop it you shouldn't have any fear of breaking it, and it's also waterproof as well. Okay, so that's quite good. So just to go back to the front panel again of the phone, so if I start at the bottom, so remember I said the bottom third section of the phone is just your numbers. So starting off on the bottom left hand side, we have your star symbol. In the center you have your 0, and on the right hand side you have your hash key, okay, or your number key. Then on the left hand side we have the number 7, 8 and 9. So that's the second row up from the bottom. So start from the left hand side, 7, 8 and 9. Back against the left hand side over the number 7 we have the 4, the 5 and the 6, and the number 5 has 2 little raised markers on it just to make it stand out a little bit when you're rubbing your finger over it if you cannot see it. 2 little raised markers there. Okay, then the last row of keys over the number 4, starting left hand side you have 1, 2 and 3. So those numbers are laid out in the standard format that you get on most traditional phones with raised buttons that you can press to dial in numbers. So moving on to the main area, the control panel area. So on the left hand side, just above where the number 1 is, we have a little green button with a green little phone on it, and that's to answer calls. And then way over on the right hand side over the number 3, we have a red little button, and that's to hang up a call or indeed to switch on or switch off the phone. Okay, directly above the green little button on the left-hand side is the first of these left soft keys that I mentioned earlier on. And just remember that their functionality will change depending on where you are in your phone. So if you're in messages, they will refer to message commands you can do. If you're in a call, they'll refer to a call command. So we'll see that as we move through in a few seconds. And then over on the right-hand side, we have the right soft key button. And once again, the same as the left, that'll change depending on where you are. In the middle of those, okay, there is like a little joystick. Okay, so a little joystick. So there's options to go left, right, up and down. Okay, and bang in the middle is the little menu button. Okay, so that brings you to your menu. So if you want to go to your menu and go down to settings or call log or text messages or anything like that, pressing that little button there brings you into the menu options, and then you can, the little part of the button underneath it is the down arrow that brings you down through the menu, or the one above it brings you up through the menu. So it's like a little joystick. So cursor keys that kind of go up, down, left and right. This middle button also doubles up. If you keep a long press on it, it'll bring you into your Google Assist option, where you can press it a second time once you get into Google Assist, and then you can ask Google questions or get it to call somebody on your phone or maybe do a text message. So that's the layout of the phone. Okay, so the bottom third is your numbers. This center section is the control panel. So on the left hand side, you have the answer button. On the right hand side, you have the hang up button. Above those, you have a left soft key and a right soft key whose functionality changes. And in the middle, you have kind of an all-in-one like joystick type button where you have a center button that allows you into menus. And once you get into menus, if you just slide above it, you can move up through the menu, down through the menu, or sometimes some of the menus have left and right options. All right, and then just above all those is your 2.4-inch screen. So to get started, I'm just going to switch on this phone. So I'll just press the button here and we'll get it to switch on. So over on the right hand side, I'm just pressing the button above the number 3, and the phone kind of vibrates when I press it for a few seconds and switches on. And because it's a Cat mobile phone, Cat is short for Caterpillar, you can kind of hear an engine sound turning on there, so you know the phone is switching on. Now this phone runs on the KaiOS operating system, so that gives this phone access to a number of apps which include Google Maps, YouTube, Facebook, Google Assist and so on. The phone itself, I suppose to talk technical about it, it's got about 4 gigabytes of storage and about 512 megabytes of RAM. Now one of the things I find about the phone is it's a little bit sluggish when you start it off, so it does take a good minute plus for it to kick in. So the phone is switched on now. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try to go into the menus and let you hear the voice and how it works. So to get into one of the menus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from the bottom of the phone along the center line of numbers. So starting off with 0, 8, 5, 2, and up onto my joystick. And in the center, I have a little button there, the menu button. So if I press that, it brings me into the menu. And you might have heard a little beep there. So if I press the down arrow key.
All apps, contacts.
Okay, if I press it again.
Store. Messages. Google. Camera. Calendar. Browser. Clock.
Okay, so all I'm doing is pressing the down arrow key, and as I down arrow.
OK key. Select. Right soft key. Options.
So all I was doing there was pressing the down arrow key to move through the menu, and once I stopped over it, Read Aloud kicked on then and told me what the right soft key does, or what the center key does here, or the left one does as I move through it.
Email. Music. Gallery.
So these are all the different apps and
FM radio.
functionalities that are on the phone.
OK key. Select. Right soft key. Options.
Okay, so the OK key is this middle one that I've been using to get into the menus. That's to select the radio if I want, and then if I want further options on FM radio, I can press the right soft key, which is on the right hand side, just over the 2 keys above the number 3. So that's where status. So I'm going to come out of these menus. I'm just going to press the key over the red or over the number 3, which is the hang up key, or it'll bring me back out of the menu. Okay.
Signal 5.
Grand.
Left soft key. Notifications. OK key. Icon equals all apps. Right soft key. Contacts.
Okay, so once again, the phone comes back and the readout function tells me that on the left-hand side, if I press the left hand or the left soft key button here, it gives me notices. If I press the menu button here, or the OK button in the middle, that gives me menu options. Or if I press the right soft key, that gives me contacts. So there are the different options, and it reads that out to me. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to call this phone and just give you an idea of what happens when I call it. Okay, so just hit the button there, so I'll just wait for it to ring out. So hopefully it should call out my name.
Derek incoming. Derek incoming. Derek incoming.
Okay, so hopefully you could hear it call out Derek incoming. Coming there.
Selected.
Okay, so
Left soft key. Notifications. OK key. Icon equals all apps. Right soft key. Contacts.
okay, and that's one of the other kind of little things about the phone is it kind of a little bit slow to call out the notifications or tell you what the buttons are, but it does repeat it and it does kick in. So you'll probably notice that throughout the demonstration that it'll be talking over me a little bit. Okay, so we've got a notification in there. So if I come up here and press the left soft key button.
A minute to go. Left soft key. Left square bracket object right square bracket. OK key. Left square bracket object right square bracket. Right soft. Call log. Call Miss Derek. 2.
Okay, so it calls out. So just when I selected the
OK key. Call. Right soft key. Options.
So when I pressed the OK key button there, I got the option to go into the missed call, and it called out Derek was the missed call. So that just gives you an idea how the readout function works. So just come back out of that, and if I just go into my menu again,
All apps.
and go down as far
Contacts.
as messages.
Messages. Unread Derek, unread, you missed one call from me. The latest at 13:34 on 18th of the 6th, 2020. To reply, just press your call button. Vodafone in touch. 13:34.
Okay, so it just reads out the messages and press the down arrow key there.
Unread 50,227 unread. Just a reminder, your top-up offer with unlimited, any network calls and texts. 10 GB of data will expire on 8th of the 4th, 2020. And you still have 10 GB of data remaining on your top-up offer. To enjoy this offer for another 4 weeks, simply top up by €20.
If I press the hang up button, the one over the number 3 on the right hand side, it just brings me back out of that. And if I press it again, it brings me back out again. So I'm back.
Left soft key, notifications, OK key, icon equals all apps, right soft key, contacts.
So I'm back out here again at my main menu. Okay, so that's the way the readout function works. So as I move through the phone, it will let me know. Okay, if I go to dial in a number, let's say I go
8 6.
Okay, see, it calls out the numbers as I type them in.
Left soft key, 7 7 1 2 3.
Okay, so I can do it like that. So it will call it out.
Left soft key, contacts, OK key, call, right soft key, options.
And if I just don't want to call there, I'm just going to press the one over the number 3 to come back out again. The hang up one, it'll just get me.
Clear. Signal 5.
Okay, so just keep it pressed for a few seconds and it brings me back out again.
Left soft key, notifications, OK key, icon equals all apps, right soft key, contacts.
Okay, so once again, you see the readout function is constantly listing to me what the options are on the screen there. If I want to use some of the smart features, what I can do is I can try using Google Assist. So what I'm going to do is the little menu button here in the middle of the screen, if I keep that pressed for a second. Okay, it brings me into Google Assist. And once I'm in Google Assist, if I press again, call Derek.
Calling Derek, mobile. Contacts.
Okay, so it's calling me there. So if I want to hang up, I'm just going to press the 1 over the number 3 again on the right hand side. So I'm going to press that. Okay.
Selected.
So that's the Google Assist feature. Okay,
Left soft key. Notifications. OK key. Icon equals all apps. Right soft key. Contacts.
Okay, so that just once again, it lists out the options for the soft key buttons. That's just a brief introduction to the phone and how it works, okay? The big pluses, it has that readout function. It has the option to use Google Assist, some of the smartphone features. Some of the drawbacks, I suppose, the constant reading out of those notifications on the left and the right hand side of what the soft keys are, and just it can be a little bit sluggish and slow to kind of read them out once you start up the phone as well. The phone itself, I suppose, it can be bought online. Okay, it was available on the Vodafone through Vodafone pre-COVID-19, but when I checked there last week, it wasn't available with them, so I'm not sure if they're getting it back into stock or not. It is available online. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact your local NCBI trainer, and we'll be happy to help you out. The battery life on the phone is quite good. They reckon it's got 12 hours talk time or 30 days on standby. The battery is very similar to a battery that you'd find in an iPhone 8, slightly better in fact. So that's just a brief introduction. Hope you found it a benefit, and if you have any questions or queries, please contact NCBI labs at ncbi.ie. Thanks a million.
Very good. So that was an overview of the Cat B35 mobile phone, and our thanks to Derek for putting together that really helpful video as well. And maybe we could just have a chat to Derek and the rest of the panel as well at the moment, just about some of those features of the Cat B35. You're very welcome to the show, Derek. Thanks for joining us this week.
Hi Jude, thanks a million.
So just, you mentioned, I think, in the video there, and we were talking about it a bit earlier as well, just about the kind of difficulty in terms of getting our hands on a phone like this. How difficult is it? Is it possible to get a hold of the Cat B35 in Ireland, and what sort of pricing are we talking about?
Yeah, but it is quite difficult. Mainly online seems to be the best source to go. So if you just do a quick search for the Cat B35 mobile online, you get a couple of websites popping up with it. The price varies as well slightly. Like pre-COVID there, it was €78, but on some of the sites now in the last few days I've noticed it's €100 and €120 approximately, which still isn't a bad price for the phone for what it does, but that's more or less the best route of getting it online. Now I suppose what we also need to consider as well is, for a phone of that kind of price, like the performance of the phone is probably going to match what you pay for it, you know, so it is very much in the budget price range. So when it comes to performance, the performance is kind of a budget level as well. You might have noticed there at different stages throughout the demonstration that if I press the button, it would take a few seconds for it to react, you know, and especially I suppose when I was dialing in the number, I was dialing in 087, it actually didn't call out the 0, it put it in but typed in the 8. It just takes that a few seconds just to kick in with the readout function. But for that price, it's not a bad phone really, and it's structurally built very well, I have to say.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Are there things that like some basic smartphones could do that this can't really handle? Like, is it actually something that is basically a smartphone with buttons, or is it, you know, is it a bit more limited than that?
It's very, very much a very entry type level smartphone. Okay, it is limited because it operates on its own kind of operating system, and it has its own kind of app store, and all the apps wouldn't be available in that. And we'll say a lot of smartphones nowadays, the quality of the camera will be a lot better than on this phone. This phone, it's only got a 2 megapixel camera compared to some of the other smartphones today. It'd be a lot higher than that. And I suppose that could be important, we'll say, based on kind of some of the stuff you'd have discussed previously on this show in relation to Be My Eyes or Seeing AI. Like,
yes,
those are apps that you can't really get on this phone at the moment. But if you could get them and you're using the camera of a 2 megapixel quality, you know, you might be getting the same result as on some of the smartphones, the other smartphones, you know. So you have to factor that in.
I think it's probably fair to say that a phone like this, it's not a smartphone, and it's not, I suppose, a dumb phone. It's called a feature phone. Will be, I think, is this kind of new term that's emerging for these phones that they're not quite up to the smartphone market, but they're still much more enhanced than your traditional Nokia from back in the day, the 3220 or something like that.
Okay, yeah. Very good. And you were mentioning there a moment ago as well, Derek, the different kind of operating system that's on this. So we're not talking about like Android or iOS or something here, are we?
No, it's got its own operating system, the KaiOS. Now, it's probably some sort of distant relation of the Android operating system, but it's very much, I suppose, the company itself, KaiOS, kind of was launched back in, I think it was 2017, okay? And their main aim was to look at feature phones and enhance them, because I think since smartphones and touchscreen phones kind of started to kind of develop and evolve back in 2006, and I think the iPhone came out in 2007, these feature phones were kind of left on the shelf, and there's not real major development with them. So what this KaiOS guys are trying to do is develop them and kind of give them some smart features, as well as retaining the buttons on them, and just make them easier and cheaper for people to get hold of and use.
And if I can just say something there, Jude, because KaiOS is an operating system, and Caterpillar are using it in this particular model of phone. There's actually hundreds of types of phone using the KaiOS operating system. Nokia are using it, Alcatel are using it in some of their phones, but the problem is they haven't switched on the screen reader. They have removed that feature, while Caterpillar have left it on. So while we're talking a lot about KaiOS, we'd have to be careful that if someone went out and bought the Nokia one with KaiOS on it, it might not have the readout feature on it, while we know for sure the Cat B35 does.
Okay, yeah. So that's quite interesting. So as we're kind of talking about this, it could sound like either it's just specific to the phone, it's the phone that's special, if you like, that it makes the readout function work or whatever. It is actually the operating system, which also is on other devices, but the other devices don't have that feature activated. Have I got it right there?
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Because I was trying to narrow down which devices had it, and I was contacting KaiOS, and they told me 3 devices, and this is the only one that you can sort of get in Ireland. And when I was contacting Caterpillar about it, I don't even think they realised that it had a screen reader on it. They had no idea what I was talking about. And that's why the screen reader works well with the phone in terms of going through the operating system itself. But if you download third-party apps like Google Maps or WhatsApp, they haven't checked integration for that there. So those apps might not exactly work with the readout feature. While they'll work with the phone, the screen reader might come into issues with those third-party apps.
Yes, yeah. Just as a bit of a follow-up to that, I would guess then that if even the manufacturers of the phone don't necessarily know about that feature, I would guess that support for that feature might be a little bit hard to come by, is it?
Yeah, that's probably why, like as Derek explained there, it's lagging in places and it's reading out things, maybe too often, like the soft keys. While if more people were using it and giving feedback, there are things to get refined, like the very first version of TalkBack or the very first version of VoiceOver. They all had teething problems, and they continue to get it to be improved. But if no one's using this and no one's giving feedback, no one's paying any attention to it.
Yeah.
And it's a pity because if we can get some more feedback towards it, like KaiOS have kind of partnered with the likes of Doro and a couple of other companies like Nokia there, some of their handsets, Alcatel as well. So those are kind of large button phones that people would have got in the past as well. So if we could tie it all together, you'd have a nice phone at a reasonable price, you know.
Because the Nokia phones with KaiOS are as cheap as £40 online, and have all the same features except for they have disabled the screen reader. Like, so if enough people ask Nokia to turn on the screen reader, you could have a Nokia style phone for €40 with because to be as popular as the Nokia C5 was, talks completely shut up shop there 2 or 3 months ago.
Yes.
So while people were sourcing the phones online, the old Nokia C5s, and taking the IMEI number, and we were contacting Talks to create a Talks that would go on that phone. We used to do that up until 3 or 4 months ago, and Talks have completely shut up shop. So that's why we have to look for new avenues. And we know there's the Mini Vision phone, which is, it's a similar phone with buttons, and there's the Blind Shell. It also has buttons for people who like the tactile feel, but they are slightly more expensive, but they're very, very refined.
Yeah.
And because this is really unknown now in KaiOS, it's not refined at the minute, and that's the issue, and that's the trade up from price.
Yes, yeah, okay. So that's kind of handy to know. So if you're listening and you like the sound of this phone, you know what to do. The other manufacturers of phones that are using KaiOS, I think you mentioned Nokia there particularly. If they have enough people, if they hear from enough people looking for that same feature.
Well, the Nokia one, it's the slide phone. It looks like the one from the Matrix. If people have ever felt one of those phones or seen that movie, it's a pretty nice looking phone. But if I was going on holiday or going to a festival and I knew it would have WhatsApp on it and it would have net access, that's a phone I'd want to bring there. So if I lost it, I went, well, that's €40, and rather than losing a €400 smartphone.
Mm-hmm. Nokia have a lovely one there, the 2720 Flip as well. As far as I'm aware, they don't have the device or the screen reader on that either, but it is a gorgeous looking phone as well. And the beauty of it is it has the big buttons. Just Derek, when you were testing out the B35, just looking at the video, it just appeared to me maybe the buttons were a little bit on the small side. Did you find that?
No. I think they're fairly okay. I think as buttons go, they're spaced out fairly well. So they are. So there is a little gap between them. Size wise, no, they're okay. They're okay. I suppose I've seen larger and I've seen smaller, Daniel, to be honest with you. So they're kind of
the Cat B35 phone itself is probably like 10 to 15% bigger than the Nokia C5 overall, and it's quite sturdy and rugged. You could throw it against a wall and it would survive.
Yeah.
I was wondering, Derek, how you found the ruggedness of the phone in terms of, obviously it's a bit kind of heavier, sturdier phone, but there's advantages, as Sean mentioned there, is I think you could drop this phone from a height of 1.2 meters. It could be in water for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I know it's funny actually. I know my own as a friend of mine who bought this phone, and he accidentally left it in his trousers, put his trousers in the washing machine, and it came out with 3 missed calls. I mean, it's really hardy, this phone. I think that's a really good feature as well.
That's it. I suppose it's Caterpillar as well, so it's kind of they're targeting the construction industry and guys out on sites or out working outside, or maybe picking up a phone with wet gloves and being able to get into menus and that idea. I suppose the waterproof thing is interesting because they do say it is waterproof, but just I suppose just the thing to watch out for is those on the side, the panel where the SIM is, and the bottom part where where you charge it and put in your headphone jack. If those covers are opened and it falls in water, I'm not sure how waterproof. That's a little bit in the fine print, but structurally, like I remember when I took it out first and got it here, like I was just kind of thinking, God, this reminds me of old phones from days gone by. Like it's in your hand and it's got a fine cover on it, so if you drop it or if it falls, it's not going to get scratched or broken. Compared to, let's say, an iPhone that I have here, you're kind of constantly watching it, minding it, making sure it doesn't fall. So yeah, it's definitely very rugged and structurally strong.
I see a question has just come in there. What is the model number of the Nokia slide phone? And that's Nokia 8110, or 8110, probably in the way they'd say it. But we have to stress that probably doesn't have the readout function, but it would have every other feature that KaiOS provide, but not readout, not the screen reader.
Yeah, very good. It's good to kind of talk about some of the other alternatives as well, because it's handy for people to know that there are other options, and even that really that same feature could be possible on other phones at some point. It's kind of useful to know. I noticed in the video that you were using Google Assistant a little bit there, Derek. I guess that with the limitations that are on the phone, I presume that wouldn't give you the same full functionality as it would on other smartphones, would it?
No, it's limited from the point of view, I suppose. With the smartphones, you could just pick up the phone and say, "Okay, Google, do something." Whereas with this phone, you actually have to press the button in the middle at the top and hold it for a few seconds, and then that brings you into the Google Assistant, and you press it again, and then you can start talking by asking it to call somebody, or you could do a text message as well, or you could ask it a question as well, and it'll come back and give you the answer.
That's dead handy. Yeah. So it's good to have that kind of combination of the feedback of speech and the Google Assistant in such a cheap phone. It's very good. And some of the apps that you talked about using there, WhatsApp and things like that, are most of the kind of commonly used maybe communications apps, are most of them available in the KaiOS store, like WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, all those sort of things?
Facebook, YouTube are available on it, so they are. And let's see what else. Google Assist is there. Google Maps, which is quite handy as well, but they're a limited version of it. Go ahead, John.
And unfortunately, because they're third party, they might not have built them with the screen reader in mind. They might not have labeled the buttons, and it might not interact with it correctly. So it's very early days in this app, and like for someone who's going to be using the calling features or messaging features, they'll have good results. But if you want to get into those apps, your results may vary, and that'll improve over time if enough people say, "I'm using this phone with readout, and I think this should be improved."
Yeah, I guess that's the issue with it, isn't it? If this was like an iPhone or something that was really, really widely used, there'd be that almost pressure to make sure development keeps up with popular apps.
Imagine we give no feedback to Apple about VoiceOver. It never would have improved, and basically now the manufacturers don't know about this feature in it, and no one's giving feedback. So this entire feature could disappear, or it could blossom. We just don't know it. It's very early days in this phone.
Here's a question that I think might be a little bit of a difficult one to answer, because I think it's a bit of a difficult one to answer with quite a number of technologies. But a question that's just come in there: how effective is it with web pages and email as well? But we could talk about both.
Yeah, I've used it with a web page there, and I suppose it depends on the web page and how that's laid out and designed as well. It's just a bit slow and cumbersome, and kind of just you're using the joystick to kind of move down through it, so it wouldn't be as would say fast as something with a voiceover on an iPhone or anything like that, So.
Okay, so not quite as easy to use for that.
Email.
Email. To be honest, I haven't tested on the email, Daniel. So
okay. So handy to kind of have a bit of a sense of those anyway, even to know about the web pages that you can manage it, because it can be kind of notoriously difficult with accessibility features sometimes, depending on the web page. So if we were to kind of sum this up a little bit, and we were just to give a bit of a broad, now obviously we can't kind of be prescriptive with this and say that this will suit everybody, but who would really go for this? Would somebody, for example, if you were already used to a smartphone, would you actually go back to using this?
No, I don't think you'd go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
There'd be leagues apart. It's like a smart Android phone or an iPhone is going to be much better if you learn that there's steeper learning curves and you get better results. But this is entry level. Mm-hmm. It's got tactile buttons for people who just can't get on with using a touchscreen.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly. I suppose what I was thinking when I had it here and was using it was like over the years, I would have linked in with different service users that may have had a phone themselves for years, a Nokia or some maker model, and they were so used to it, they knew where all the buttons were and they could use it and they were happy out. And then it obviously comes to the end of its life and they have to go and get another one. And when they go into the local store or wherever they go, they're kind of presented with a different phone, a touch screen or whatever. So they wouldn't be that comfortable moving on to there. So it might be just for somebody who wants a basic phone with buttons that has a bit of the readout function that'll talk back, that allows them to make a call, receive a call, send a text, receive a text, check missed calls, and then also give them the option of trying out stuff on Google Assist, without having to break the bank, That's
very
really
good.
where I see it going, yeah.
I think it'll also, a pleasant place. If you have your good iPhone XR and you're going off the likes of a festival or a concert, or you're going out for, you're going to some event and you say, gosh, I don't want to bring my, 1,000 euros worth of a phone with me. Maybe it's a handy second phone to have it. You can just pop the SIM in and off you go to these events. If you lose it, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know outside of sight loss, people will often buy them for older members of the family because they're left out of WhatsApp groups, because everyone's in a family WhatsApp group now, or everyone's in some sort of WhatsApp group. And if you bought this for an older member of the family, they're also getting those WhatsApp messages as well as regular text messages. Yeah. But in terms of the screen reader interacting with that, it doesn't really match up yet. So for someone who's new to sight loss and is used to the Doro phones and might want menus read aloud to them, it's a good starting point. It's not as good as the Blind Shell, it's not as good as the Mini Vision, but it's it's very, very much cheaper than them. But that, as the lads described there, that price difference can come across in quality though.
Yeah, very good. So it definitely sounds like a useful phone anyway. It sounds like it's got its kind of niche, and that for some people it'll be just right. So thanks very much to the panel there for your contributions, and thanks as well, Derek, for creating that very useful introduction to the Cat B35 video earlier that we were able to enjoy as well. So thanks very much for that. Now, of course, if you'd like any more information about any of the technology subjects that we discuss on our live events, please do get in touch and we'll be happy to help out as well.